Hello everyone, how's it going? Are you making mistakes when it comes to sunscreen? Well, most people do. When we think about sunscreen, we think about wanting to avoid a sunburn or trying to minimize our risk for skin cancer. But do you ever think about premature aging? Well, today we're going to talk about 5 mistakes that many people make with their sunscreen. If that sounds interesting to you, then keep watching. Now, when I was young, I never really thought about applying sunscreen, and I was outside a lot. If you're about my age or older, you probably can relate to this. But as I got a little bit older, I started having more concerns about skin cancer. So if I was going to be out in the sun for an extended period of time, I started being a lot more diligent about applying sunscreen. But it was only recently that I started thinking about applying sunscreen to help with the premature aging. Of course, we don't think about these things until we're in our 40s and our 50s. Well, today we're going to talk about 5 mistakes that many people make when it comes to sunscreen. And then later in the video, I was going to talk about sunscreen and makeup, because that was something that I was really wondering about. Now, one of the mistakes that many people make is they don't know how to read the label correctly, or they just don't understand which kind to purchase. Now, the American Academy of Dermatology recommends a broad spectrum or a multi-spectrum. They recommend an SPF of 30 or higher, and one that is water resistant. Now, they mention the broad spectrum because it protects us from UVA and UVB. The UVA are ones, those are the rays that could cause aging, and the UVB actually can burn our skin. Now, SPF actually stands for sun protection factor, and this actually measures how much solar energy is required to cause a sunburn when we're wearing sunscreen versus when we're not wearing sunscreen. There's 2 main types of sunscreen. There's the chemical and the physical, mineral-based. Now, the chemical type actually filters UV light. It absorbs the sun's rays. The physical, mineral-based type actually blocks UV and actually acts like a shield. The physical, mineral-based type actually protects the skin from a broader spectrum of UV light, and it's actually proven to be better for those with sensitive skin or acne-prone skin. You definitely want to look for one of 2 ingredients when you're purchasing sunscreen. There's the avobenzone or the zinc oxide. You want to make sure it has one of those. You also want to look for water resistant. There's not going to be any waterproof, but the label should tell you how long it's supposed to be water resistant for, which kind of leads to the second mistake many people make, is they don't apply enough sunscreen. Now, most people actually only apply 25 to 50% of the recommended amount. Now, they tell us to apply the sunscreen 15 minutes before going into the sun. And of course, if we're going to be out for several hours, we're supposed to reapply every 2 hours, maybe even more if we're sweating or swimming quite a bit. But before you even go out into the sun, most adults need 1 ounce of sunscreen, which can actually fill a shot glass. Many people do forget certain parts of the body, like the tops of their feet, their ears, their nose, their lips. I know I'm guilty of that. Along the hairline, places where we have a balding or thinning spot, the back of the neck, and the hands. Now, number 3, the mistake people will make is they'll only apply sunscreen on a sunny day. But actually, on cloudy days, we're still getting up to 80% of UV rays penetrating our skin. So it's very important still to apply it on cloudy days. Another thing people don't think about is when they're driving. Most windshields actually are treated to shield us from the UVA rays, but the side, the back windows, the sunroof, those are not usually treated. So depending on how much driving we're doing, even if we do a little bit every day, we could be causing long-term skin damage. Now, before we move on to point number 4, I'd like to remind you to like and subscribe. Also, just a reminder to check out the links below where you can read more information and where you can check out some product suggestions. And number 4, many people will make the mistake to use expired sunscreen, and this can really put our skin at risk because it may no longer be effective. So if it's past the expiration date, it's better just to throw it out, or if you know you've purchased it 3 years ago, it's better just throw it away and start with a new one. Let's see. We also want to be careful where we're keeping our sunscreen. We don't want it in the direct sunlight, so if you can keep it in the shade, maybe wrapped in a towel or in a cooler, that would be very good. Number 5, many people will make the mistake of applying or just depending on sunscreen only. And there's no sunscreen that blocks 100% of UV rays. So it's important that we also try to seek shade, perhaps wear protective clothing, maybe a wide brimmed hat, sunglasses that have UV protection. And then if we want even extra protection, we could wear clothing with the UPF label, which stands for ultraviolet protection factor. Now, onto the makeup with the sunscreen. A few years ago, I started buying foundation that had sunscreen in it, and I was wondering if that was sufficient. But when I did some research, they said it's not going to give you the dermatology recommended level of protection. So they usually recommend that you apply the sunscreen first and then your makeup. The problem with that is you might wind up wiping off some of the sunscreen as you're applying your makeup. And then if you're going to be out for several hours, you're going to have to reapply in 2 hours, every 2 hours at least. And then you're going to have to reapply the makeup, and that sounds like way too much work. So some people have had success trying a tinted mineral sunscreen. It actually comes in one shade, but it blends in with many skin tones. Now, you may be like many people who just don't like the feel of sunscreen, but they actually make a lot now that are very lightweight and some that work really well for sensitive skin and for acne-prone skin. So check out the links below. There might be some you could try that you'll feel comfortable wearing more often. Now, those who have lighter skin are more at risk, but all skin types can actually be susceptible to skin cancer. So we really want to protect our skin. One thing that we can do is try to avoid the sun rays when they're the strongest, which is between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. But if you do have lighter skin or history of skin cancer, perhaps some medical condition, or you're taking medications, you may be at greater risk for damage from the sun. So you always want to follow the recommendation of a board-certified dermatologist. Well, we want to protect our skin from skin cancer, and we want to protect ourselves from premature aging. So try to avoid these 5 mistakes and keep your skin as healthy and glowing as long as possible. I hope you've enjoyed today's information, and I hope to see you in the next video where we'll discuss another way we can improve our health.